Assalamu alaikum everyone. Now usually on this channel we talk about all things to do with money, investments and finance, but today I want to share with you something a little bit different but hopefully as beneficial, and is very personal to me. How to memorize the Quran step by step. You see, I memorized the Quran by the age of 14. I got started at the age of 7, and then subsequently I got an ijaza in Riwayah Hafs and Asim from a sheikh in Egypt when I was 18. But my journey was not easy, and over the years I got taught by about 8 different teachers, some great, some not so great. And I self-taught myself, and I learned from the teachers as well a whole bunch of techniques on how I could memorize faster. And by the end of my memorization journey, I could memorize an entire page in around 6 minutes. And over the last few months, I have come full circle and started teaching my 6-year-old son, Suleiman. Suleiman ko Ameen.
Ameen.
Ameen. Good boy. Good boy. Eid Mubarak. And what I realized was that there's actually a real craft and a skill set to memorization that I'm teaching him that will make his hifz journey far easier than mine was. And in this video, I'm going to share exactly what I'm teaching my son with you as well. I'm going to break it down step by step, how to go from just starting out on your hifz journey all the way to nailing it as a complete hafiz. And frankly, even if you're not memorizing the Quran at all, the memorization techniques we will cover should pretty much help anyone out in any walk of life. The very first thing we need to discuss before we even get into the nitty-gritty of how to memorize is what is the game plan here. So I would recommend starting from the 30th juz, perhaps picking off the 29th juz as well, but then I would stop and I would go to the first juz and continue on from there until you finish. I was taught by subcontinental teachers, and they taught me that there are 3 fundamental things that you will be doing as a memorization student: sabak, sabki and dor. Sabak is the new material that you learn every lesson and recite to your teacher. It might be half a page, it might be a few lines, it might be 1 page. Sabki is the revising of all of the recent material that you have learned, the last few pages, typically from the same juz, the same chapter that you are memorizing at the time. So for example, if you are on page 6 of juz 5, the first 5 pages of juz 5 would be your sabki. Dor is your long-term revision. You would typically want to be doing about half a juz to a full juz every time and cycling through all of the historic juz that you have committed to your memory. Now, in terms of your daily and weekly routines, this is how I would do it. For your daily routine, I would have 45 minutes memorization in the morning, focused on your sabak, the new stuff. So you'd have a class for 2 to 3 hours. We used to have a class for 3 hours in the evening where you revise your sabak that you've learned in the morning, and then you recite it to your teacher, and you're only allowed a maximum of 2 mistakes. After that, you don't really know it, and you should be sent back and to do it again until you only have 2 mistakes at max, and ideally no mistakes. Then, in the same class, you start working on your sabki and your dor. For your sabki, you should always revise your last 3 sabaks, i.e. your last 3 new pieces that you have learned. And then you should cycle through the different quarters of that same juz you are in as part of your sabki. Let me give you an example. So let's say you are in the 8th juz, you're halfway through the 3rd quarter of the 8th juz. So you would definitely be revising your last 3 sabaks, which would basically be everything from the half onwards. And then you would do one of the other 2 quarters from the first half that you've already memorized. And then the next day, you'd again do your last 3 sabaks, and you would pick off the other quarter from that same juz. For dor, you really want to be doing about half a juz at a time while you are still under 10 juz memorized, because that way you can cycle through everything you know in about 20 lessons. But once you're past 10 juz, you really should be reading 1 juz at least of revision every single lesson, because you now have much more to cover every single time. Of the 3, sabak, sabki, dor, your sabki is actually the most important. Learning new stuff is actually quite easy after a while, as this is just your short-term memory, and dor is just refreshing on stuff that is already in your long-term memory. But sabki is the stuff that is transitioning from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. That's why it's hard. And sometimes you will revise something that you have learned and you will feel like you're having to learn it all over again, and it can even feel harder the second time round. But that's fine. That's how it should be. After class, you should spend about 30 minutes or so just looking at your next sabak. You may not necessarily learn it very well because you're not fresh, but at least you've got your eye in and you've got the general gist of what you're going to learn.